So you've seen both, right? You've seen the high profile player that makes people better, and you've seen the high profile player that is kind of a cancer in some ways, right? You know, without saying any names, like, can you give us some examples of what the two extremes?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, you see it in professional sports all the time, just from a distance, like the guys, and then from a high school standpoint, like I was going into that with running off on a field, like our best players, like made that a cool thing, and everybody else on the team bought into it, and then just the way that we got on and off the field, it intimidated other teams. It intimidated other teams. It kept our adrenaline up. It kept our blood flowing. It kept us focused.
Energy stays up.
Everything just filtered into the game. The momentum, the pace of the game. Like I always talk to my teams about, the game's a living thing. Like there's rhythm to it, there's momentum to it. Like the game shifts, all right?
It's
And you
super
have to
fluid.
really
Yep.
try to control it. And like the longer you coach, and now I've been doing it for 20 years, like I feel like the one thing that gets better as you continue to coach is you can almost see that shift before it happens. Like you can see the momentum coming, and you try to warn your team and you try to tell them, but it's either they don't believe you or they don't quite get how to shift it.
Man,
You know?
I had a game about 5 years ago. We had an 11 run lead, 11 runs in like the third inning, and I was really upset. And I kept telling guys, I said, guys, you better change how you're going about things because things are just working out well for us. Because I don't like how anybody's going about their business right now. We gave up a 12 spot in the fourth inning and lost the game.
Yep.
So it's exactly, so I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about. That was one of the first, that was one of the most, not first, that was the most significant time as a coach to where like it looked like we were the tsunami taking over the other team when really all I was preparing for was that the hurricane was coming to blow our house over. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's all. And they were looking at me like I was crazy. Right? And I know that everyone in the stands, our parents, other parents, probably like, they're up by 11 runs. What is he walking around so like with like kind of angry about?
Yeah.
Bam, it happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, just as recent as a basketball national championship game, I felt like you could see that coming. Like UNC was up by like 20 points, 15 points, whatever. Like Kansas made the greatest comeback in national championship history or whatever. But when they were up by 20 and it was like really early in the second half, and you could see the other team
Just
start
chipping
coming,
away.
start coming. And you knew at the end of the game that tide was shifting, and now to where it was like, all right, everything seemed really easy and fluid for North Carolina. Now it became that way for the other team. Even though they were still down by 10, you can see it was starting to become easy for them. And then when it get down to the last minute, the pressure was on the team that was winning the whole time. And now the other team was almost playing like they were up the whole time. So you can see that momentum start to shift. I think as a coach, you have to make your players aware of it. And as a player, you have to find ways to stop the momentum or shift it back. Things like throwing a runner out, picking a guy off, the things we talked about, the game within the game. Like the game within the game is how you steal outs and how I feel like you're gonna kill that momentum and put it back into your favor.
I'm still going. I'm going to give a little challenge to our players right now. And all summer long, I'm going to say, and I'm going to try to get it to be the culture within power baseball of two things, and we'll probably build on this menu. But first off, cheat codes. Find the cheat codes. Where are the cheat codes? They're out there, and we're searching for those cheat codes every single game. And the other thing is, I want to make the Marlo rule, and should be intimidating the other team with how hard you run on the field every single inning. Right? Again, you Matt, like you guys want to talk about helping your recruiting. If our whole team and just were bullets out of a gun running onto the field every inning, they're gonna like every college coach, every pro scout is going to pay attention.
I'm glad you brought it
Everyone.
up because I wanted to bring that when I was talking about that team and that player that got everybody to believe in that. This is not made up. This is not a lie. But I had probably, I mean, it was almost every college coach or pro scout that came to our games. And we, at that point, in my coaching tenure, we didn't have the big first rounders and stuff. We were still building the program. It was year 2, but we did have a lot of good
No,
college
you guys were
players.
very good. Yep.
So they weren't necessarily even there to see our guys, and the coaches would literally stay after. And that's kind of how I started to build my network as well. Thankfully for that team, is they would come up and they say, "Coach, I have never seen a team play with so much energy. I love watching this team play. I'm going to come back again just to see you guys because I love how it is, and you're going to have good players in the future." Like, and I'm telling you, it was at least 8 coaches. And like off the top of my head, the one that sticks out is John McCormick. Came to watch Joey Burkhalter, who ended up playing shortstop there, and he comes up after the game and he was literally like, "How do you get these guys to play with so much energy?" You know? And that was a common theme with West Orange, is we always had that energy, and we always tried to make that an important thing. Like, guys, just the way you present yourself, the way you take the field, the way you come off and on, you already have the name. Now you're just putting more pressure on that team. They're showing up to a great complex. They see a team that looks like a college team because they're dressed right. They got all the same shoes. Like, they're all look the same. Nobody's an outlier. And then you put that on top of it, that team's showing up. They got no chance. Holy smokes, guys. These guys are ready to play. And when I'm coaching and we're playing a really good team that we might either be even with, or on paper they might be better, and I see that team in the first 2 innings jogging out there, like we're ready to hit, their shortstop still in the dugout looking for his stuff, I'm getting hyped up, and I'm like, "Guys, let's go. They're sleepwalking. Let's take this game. Let them sleepwalk all game. Let's go. They're not ready." You know, so like, you can either instill fear or build confidence just the way you're taking the field and carrying yourself out there.
When I'm talking to hitters, I always tell them you're either the hunter or the hunted. So same thing, right? Like, when you come to the field, are you hunting the other team or are you the hunted? Because there's nowhere in the middle, right? Like, there's one person being hunting and the other person getting hunted, right? Like, it's so which one are you going to be? And you got to grab that gun and be the hunter. You got to go and have that killer instinct in those things. So yeah, and that's so like this stuff right here is everyone wants to know how can I get seen? How can I get noticed? Well, it's about I'm going to take your game within a game and I'm going to make it into that should be a thought that comes into players' heads every single time they have a thought. And they go, "Man, you know what? It's our 5th game of the week and it's 94 and it's 8 a.m. You know, I get it why you don't want to run hard." Or how about you go, "You know what? I'm going to run hard anyway." And that's what it needs to be. Well, that's the game. Because if you go, "Well, it's 94, that's our 5th game of the week and it's 8 a.m., then you know what? Like, you just lost that game within that game. Like, you just lost that one. But if you win it and you say, "No, I'm going to Marlo rule it and I'm going to sprint onto the field and I'm going to be the hunter and I'm going to do that every single time, even when I feel my worst." Okay, which is a Joe DiMaggio quote talking about you never let the other man know when you're feeling down. Run harder when you feel at your worst. He said something along those lines. And if our players can do that, how many more phone calls are going to come to us? How many more people are going to come to the dugouts? How many those types of things are going to give players, they're going to go, "Hey, I'm going to come back and watch him again even though he really struggled today because there's some things I liked."
Yep. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they're looking for ball players. We go right back to the resume and the interview. Like, guys, if you're on one of our rosters, your resume's out there. Like, your recommendations are there. The resume's out there. Like, what coaches feel like your resume is where it needs to be for them, that's up to them to decide. But if they're actually there to show up, like, hey, man, like, just perform. Be a baseball player. Like, show them you can help teams win. At that point, it doesn't matter how hard you're throwing the ball, how far. Just be a baseball player. Hit a blooper over second base when it needs to be done.
There's not a college coach in the country that gets a bonus for having the hardest throwing pitching staff in the country. There's no college coach in the country that gets a bonus for having the team that hit the most home runs in the country. But you know what they do get bonuses for? Winning conference championships, right? And winning championships, whatever it is in front of it. The more championships they win, the more the extensions they get on their contracts, the more bonuses that they get, okay? The more that they get to keep their job, the more that they get to enjoy their everyday job, because that's their whole purpose, is to win baseball games. So what they're trying to find is people to help them win games. Yes, there's velocity.
There is a threshold.
Of course, there's metrics and data.
Yes.
Of course, it's like anything. It's just like, hey, like if I'm gonna hire, if someone's gonna, hire a CEO, you're usually not hiring a guy doesn't have his high school education.
Correct.
Right? Like it doesn't matter if he crushes the interview. There's things you have to meet, but once again, those aren't the things that they should be concerned about on the day of the game, as you put. Right? When you get to the game, it's the interview. Be a competitor. Be a winner. Show that you can provide a value to help them win the game. And it's not just one time. That's the thing, right? Well, I did show it. What do we talk about in our first newsletter? If you haven't read, please go back. Play better is what it is. Maybe they don't think it's good enough. Well, keep playing better, or keep playing so well that you eventually convince them that that's the case. Another time we're going to do a little feature on Barber, right? On Nick Barber, one of our staff members, and we'll go into that and what his recruiting was like, and it'll be funny to hear Jesse, as he was the rival head coach, as me and Lassiter were Nick's high school head coach. It's funny how what he thought in a small sample size initially was the exact opposite of what we thought, and about how over time your opinion on him changed drastically as a player, right? And we'll go into his story another time with that. But I say that because it's an example. There's different ways to do it, right? There's some players that go out there and you know what? They've got tools and it can just be one time, and it's such a big splash that it impresses somebody that so much that they say they got to have it. And other people, it's a slow drip, right? And it's just got to be, and it's nothing special, but you know what? Nothing special that's super consistent is sometimes a whole lot better than the big flash in the pan. Is what it is. And sometimes you need a combination and a mix of these things. So understanding players of who you are, and biggest thing is understanding what you can control. And if it's just preparing leading up to events, being prepared and being concerned about the right things on game day and during the game and after the game. And it's all about being a winner and competing and playing hard and those types of things. That's what's going to get them to give them the most present success, as well as help them from the recruiting. You're nodding your head. You're yes on this? Or?
And if baseball doesn't work out, I mean, everything you just said sounds like the same thing you have to do for it to be a successful person in life with a job.
The biggest winners are the people that did those things. And it's funny, like the people that we've started to hire, okay, are all former players of ours. Mm-hmm. And every one of those players that are former players of ours that we've hired, they're the ones that did the right things.
Well, there's
every one of them.
Yeah, and
every one of them.
Yeah, and there's a reason why being an athlete in college is very attractive to when you go to get a real job in the real world, because you know how to work with other people, and hopefully those things that we've been talking about have been instilled into you.
And if you've done it that long through the college level.
It's natural.
Yes.
It's a routine now, which we go back to the first thing we talked about. Find a routine. Find a way to be prepared. You're going to have to do it for the rest of your life. Like, start now when it's something you really, really enjoy. Is going to be a lot easier.
All right, so now this summer, any player that is not running super hard or being concerned with the right things, we're going to hold them accountable, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that's part of what we're doing here is we're going to expect that they've listened to this. This is why we're doing this. So now they can't say they haven't been told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's immediately you're going to be held accountable. It's not, oh, well, you did it once and I'm going to let it slide. No, you're going to be held accountable immediately, because we can't do our job for you unless you do these things to allow us to help you. And we're giving you the answers. And if you choose not to do these things that are controllable, then you know what? It's all a giant waste. And we're sitting here wasting our time. So you're going to get held accountable. That's what's going to happen with us. Is that fair?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So if it's game one of the summer, guys, and you see Coach Marlo or myself or one of our other coaches third inning of the game, laying into somebody because their back is to the field. Okay, parents, I hope you're giving thumbs up to that, and you're not wondering how's he doing this already in the third inning of the summer. How's he supposed to know? Because they've been told.
Exactly, and that's what we'll be saying is, how is he doing this in the third inning of the summer already?
Yep. No, for sure. No, that's great, man. Do you have anything closing that you want to say on that topic of engagement, or what do like that? Just broad spectrum of what our players need to make sure that they stay disciplined on a daily basis when they come to the field to play.
I mean, I think we've hit it all. Like, at the end of the day, it just keeps coming back to that cliche: control what you could control, and understanding what that really means. Like doing the task at hand. Like I said, win. What's important now? What is important that pitch? What's important that at bat? Look for ways to help your team every single pitch, every at bat. Other than that, like if they can, I promise, guys, if you're listening to this and you're like stepping back and saying, man, I'm one of those guys like Coach is talking about. Like, I don't really ever, I'm watching the game, but I'm not really paying attention to anything he's told me. Like, hey, it's fine. You're still young. Like, take this in and like apply it to your next game. Like, this isn't something you have to work on. Like, no, you could start the very next game, and like, I promise you, you'll be amazed that your results will probably get better, and you're gonna be able to do things not only to help your team. Heck, you might be able to help the second baseman standing right next to you, or the hitter in the dugout right next to you. I know the one thing I love, I'm put these guys on pump up a little bit, but when I went and watched our 24 Platinum team last fall, like, I went after I left the game, I said, holy smokes, Dempsey, like, those guys are locked in. Like, every time a batter got out, he was coming back to the dugout and telling everybody on the way back to the bat rack, hey, his ball's moving, it's doing this, it's doing that, it's doing this. Guy gets on first base, hey, I got him at this count. Like, they were locked in, and look what they ended up. I think second best team in the country or something like that. Like,
that now 24 Marucci team.
It's those intangibles.
Yeah, that now 24 Marucci team is, like I said, they were talented enough, right? Like, all of our teams have always been, but plenty talented enough. Okay, It's the difference of how engaged of the game are you, and I remember that moment, and that was a big difference. Is that a talented team was engaged in small things and giving each other information and working with each other to figure out how to win the game. And when you have talent and you have that, you're going to win. And you're going to win, and you're going to win a lot. And that's what those guys ended up doing. And so we have that. It doesn't matter what team you're on within this program. There's enough talent to compete. There's enough. There is, right? And there's varying levels of it, but there's enough talent to compete. We have almost 60 players committed in our 2022 class right now. We're almost at number 60. We had 4 teams last summer. Okay, so you're talking about over 75-80% of our players are going to play college baseball. Doesn't matter what team it was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, Z, 6. It doesn't matter, right? There's enough. My team, which was incredibly talented last year, we won 7 games. Do you know what we didn't do? What that 24 Marucci team was doing. They didn't do things like that. And it didn't matter how much I failed to be able to get those guys to be able to do it on a regular basis. That's how I have to look at it as, is, you know what, I wasn't playing, but my job is to help get them to play and prepare properly. And I somehow was not able to find it. Now, we had 57 colleges come watch us play last summer. Okay, and I think it's like 80% of that roster is committed right now. However, right, like, why didn't we win? And it's because of everything you're talking about here. This engagement matters.
And when you're sharing information with other players to help them successful, it makes them feel and know that you care about them being successful as much as you. And I know one common thing that I always talked about a lot when I was coaching high school teams is you have to want it for your teammate as much as you want it for yourself.
This is a team
game.
And
if you can do that, you're automatically going to be engaged. And if you're engaged, you're gonna want your player to do better. You're gonna learn more things by watching the game. But I do believe you can will yourself to win. You could will your teammate to do better. If he feels like he has 10 guys behind him, he's gonna be more confident up there at the plate than feeling like he's out there stranded on an island. Which is I feel like the game's gone more that way, to an individualized showcase type of way, and we need to start bringing it back to like we're brothers on this team. Like you have to, and in summer ball it's really hard because you're together 2 hours and everybody disperses to hotels and all that stuff. But if you want a way to gel that team together, share information. Want it for your teammate as much as you want it for yourself. Your teammates will feel that, they'll see it, and it'll all naturally come together.
The things I'm taking from this is not only the Marlo rule of running hard and intimidating by running hard and off the field, but we're gonna start a movement there with what you just said, and we're gonna bring it back. We're gonna bring it back to being about a team and not being about an individual. And the individuals prosper when the teams do really well. So make the team the main priority. So we're gonna bring it back. So that's good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Today.
Awesome, man.